Hello there and welcome to News Express, exclusively brought to you by Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. My name is Onoja. Now, it's a brand new week. Of course, we know there's going to be brand new stories for the week. And why not? Let's quickly check what we have at the headlines this morning. This one staring at me says, Buhari, Ahmed, all guns blazing for revenue from January 1st, 2022. Staring at me here is analysts raise concerns over Nigeria's rising trade deficit. This one's right here says, NDIC lists claims payment credentials supporting financial system stability. Lavage donates 80-bed isolation center. Election violence and insecurity. Strategic fund to replace a 5,000 naira Salaka official deception. And this one says, NSAS, a country at war with its youth. Obviously, there's been a whole lot of, a lot of stories making the rounds this morning. But to just, save time, I would quickly just bring in Mr. Philip Isakba, the publisher, Business AM, to help me and everyone else listening make sense out of these headlines that I just read out. Hi, Mr. Philip. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Onoja. Good to be back here again.
It's so good to be back. We read interesting stories making the headlines this morning, and I'm glad that you're here as usual to make heads out of these headlines. I hope you had a great weekend.
Yes, I did, and I hope you did too.
Let's first look at this one that says, Buhari Ahmed guns blazing for revenue from January 1st. Now, President Mohammadu Buhari and Zainab Ahmed, his Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, appear set to go out, all gone blazing, as they put it, in search of a revenue in every available space for the federal treasury from the very first day of 2022, with a new finance bill 2021 set to be passed into law this month. Now, speak to us about this, how imperative it is for Nigerians to widen its tax nets. Like, in what ways exactly are they seeking to squeeze in revenue?
Onoja, this is very interesting. You saw that last week the president sent a letter to the Senate asking for this bill, to be speedily looked into and passed. Government has been quite short on revenue for quite a long time. The deficit budgeting has been going on for forever. Every year it's always a deficit budgeting, and there isn't enough funds to meet the different needs that the government is trying to pursue. Government did something remarkable in 2020 going into 2021 when they introduced the finance bill, that they are currently seeking an amendment for, and that bill did talk about raising revenue. That was where we had the VAT raised from 5% to 7.5%, and government was very pleased by that. By the end, by half year 2021, there had been enough money. It's not enough anyway. It's never always going to be
enough.
But there had been a lot of money come in, that opened the eyes of government to see that indeed they could do one or two things, to bring in money. The key thing you must have heard over the years is tax to GDP, ratio, which they say has always been lower than say South Africa, some other countries, perhaps in Ghana as well, and a few other countries across the African continent. And globally, it is no way in comparison, because you're looking at a tax to GDP ratio in some countries of 45% or more, and then Nigeria is looking at perhaps 6 or even lower than that percent, tax to GDP. So that's been the issue, and so because government made a success of I think that was 2020 finance bill, that passed in 2021, that saw VAT raised from 5% to 7.5%, starting from this early this year. Again, January 1. They succeeded. It was January 1, 2021 that it started, and they are going ahead to say, okay, this bill is to widen tax nets, and then so that they can bring in a lot of revenue. They always say to tackle a lot of problems. That they face. So what they have done. You have it. What's it called? Tax deficit. Revenue deficit, budget deficit. That has been up for a very long time. This for 2022 alone, you are looking at a budget deficit of 5.62 trillion naira. They're wondering where that is going to come from if they do not go all out. Looking for money from everywhere. So this bill that they put that I'm sure will pass before the Senate goes on recess. For Christmas. It's designed, to be able to shoe in a lot of money. So they are taxing almost everything. You find that your Facebook usage your Facebook usage, what's it called? All the different areas they are looking for this revenues from, and this is going to be what will hit Nigeria next year. Remarkably, everybody that has a bank account, in Nigeria, will find that they will now have to supply their tax identification number. That's a lot going down there.
Exactly.
To widen the tax net. Because if government has all that information, it means that they can follow the money, wherever it's coming from or going to be able to tax. And then what this might mean is that they could tax you.
Exactly.
They could look at your bank, what you have in the bank, and just if there's nowhere suggesting that you're paying tax, they can go for the money, without you even knowing. The Federal Inland Revenue Service can make a calculation of what you are supposed to pay as tax, given what they see in your account, and just levy a tax on it. So for those companies, international technology companies that have businesses or doing one thing or the other in the country, Facebook, Twitter, Google, and then including all the e-commerce sites, that make money make money from doing having some activities in Nigeria.
Right.
They are going to pay tax by what is going to happen with this tax bill. So quite a lot is going to come out from this, and it's going to spread.
Apparently.
Because government thinks that it needs to make money from a whole lot of sources, a whole lot of places, and this bill, we said all guns blazing, because they are hurrying up to see that this passes into law this year, so that from January 1 it will kick off, and then you will have the federal government going all out, with the Federal Inland Revenue Service and all the different agencies that are responsible for bringing in revenue, using this new bill.
Great. Now, talking about tax identification number, we see that effective from January 1st, 2022, a new policy on tax will take effect in Nigeria through the implementation of the, amended 2021 finance bill, which, stipulates the mandatory submission of tax identification number. That's now the theme we're talking about, by an individual bank account holder, to the bank, to enable easy tax remittance from the bank account to the government. What does this new policy help to achieve? What's its mandate?
Yeah, what we're saying is that what you're going to see is that the question has always been, how you have a population of 200 million people, you probably have even if you gave 20, 30, 40% of that, within some form of income earning bracket, you still have a shortfall of how much the tax, how many people are actually paying real tax, and you have, because the central bank has pushed for what you call trying to get everybody into the banking system, this cashless policy, where a lot of transactions are expected to go through the banking system. It's even an offense and clause and then in the EFCC Act, so that makes it an offense if certain transactions are not carried out through the banking system. Right. In the past, people could just withdraw 20 million naira, 10 million naira, 5 million naira, and then carry out their transactions. And some people would take their money and put it under the pillow. Exactly. Now that's no longer possible. It's not just because there's a cashless policy that is in force or in place, but you also have it as an offense within the EFCC Act. So people are careful of this. So, but the key thing is that in spite of all some of these efforts that have been made, there's still the thinking that it is not wide enough. The tax system is not capturing many people. That there's some people who are making money, right. Over the counter, and then because they are not captured in the system of tax collection, they are not adequately represented. But the point is that there's a belief that more people have bank accounts. So they've tied the TIN number. That. Every bank account, holder, will need to supply the tax identification number, because if you are doing something, especially if you're earning any sort of income, there's a way that the tax whatever the tax policy should capture you, and if you're not captured, then there must be something wrong. So government is trying to be clever in terms of going to going to the post before the ball is kicked. So they are attaching. They're going to ask all banks, to ensure that everybody operating an account, supplies a TIN number. You just have to be in a situation where you are not doing anything at all. Exactly. For you not to have a tax identification number. If you have done some form of work, whether employed or you are doing some form of business, you should. That's their thinking, that you should have a tax identification number. Great. So when this is attached to the account, it's easier for government, and how information is handled. This information becomes available to the Federal Inland Revenue Service people, and then they can look at what's coming in, what balance you have, and are wondering, money is coming in, but you are not paying anything. Where is it coming from? They can ask some questions and then be able to some taxes on what they think is you should be paying government as tax.
Well spoken. Actually, due to time, we're going to have to hasten stuff because I have lined up questions for you. Speaking on the finance bill, like you mentioned earlier, we see that President Buhari last week transmitted the 2021 finance bill through a letter titled Transmission of Finance Bill 2021 to the National Assembly for consideration and passage into law in support of the 2022 budget to the Nigerian Senate, for consideration now and passage. What are the other points to note from the amended bill? What do you think about these changes? I mean, is it a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good. I mean, if government is trying to look for money, it's a good thing. I mean, it's the question people have always talked about is whether people are also getting the service, for which government is asking a whole lot of money for. So it's not so much about people not. I mean, a good number of people not wanting to pay. It's sometimes it's about disenchantment or not agreeing or feeling comfortable with what money they pay and then not getting the service they're supposed to get. Now let's take some of the changes which Price Waterhouse senior tax consultant has talked about. Include changes the lottery gaming business. There's a lot of people going into that area in terms of not just doing the business itself, but also those who are playing and making some winnings. So lottery and gaming business is to be specifically taxable under CETA, and this will involve betting, game of chance, promotional competition, gambling, and so on and so forth. Video poker. So there are people who are playing online, are making some winnings, that are not taxed. So there's going to be a minimum tax rate of 0.25% of turnover, which will become applicable to any two accounting periods between January 19 and 31 December 2021. So the bill will also note that non-residents, those who are non-residents here, making taxable supplies to recipients in Nigeria have the primary obligation to charge, collect and remit VAT to FIRS. The VAT withholding responsibility of Nigerian recipients is now limited to where the non-resident, or so this is about those who are resident and non-resident. So this tax extends to them. I mean, this new bill, has a covering for withholding tax for VAT on transactions that will be carried out by people who are resident and non-resident in the country. Again, one other thing is that subject to approval of the National Assembly, the Finance Minister shall make regulations for the imposition, administration, collection, remittance, including distribution of arrears of stamp duty and electronic money transfer levies collected between 2015 and 2019. So there's going to be a whole lot of some backdating that will be involved. So many areas will be covered, by this new law. But the key thing is that Nigerians should get ready from 1st January 2022 that the finance minister acting for the government treasury will go all out looking for revenues through this bill.
Another headline here that caught me is the RTO looks to resume production after capping wellhead in OML 2029. If you ask me, this is quite remarkable. I mean, considering what the indigenous oil and gas company had gone through in the past. What many industry experts say is is a common occurrence in international oil business, and even how they have done their best to handle it, Mr. Philip. I feel like it's great. This is great. This is, there was a lot of time spent looking at the let's call it disaster, or the what happened, on that wellhead OML 29. So an indigenous company, 6 or 7 years old, doing this, this was big. I mean, this is big in terms of what we're talking about, because this was once a shell managed and operated business or facility, and then you have an indigenous company, 6 years old, shouldering this huge responsibility. Of course, we know it's a commercial thing that they are doing, but we need to look at it in terms of for international oil companies. They see this kind of things, happen all the time. We a lot of technology. We don't have a lot of this technology. It's technology for the business comes from outside the country. So after having these challenges over a long period of time, now the success has been. I mean, the wellhead had eventually been capped. Showing that. We can say that a crisis has been managed by an indigenous company, even if it had support from different bodies, So this is a positive news. We thought it was important to highlight this. There's a picture there also showing the people who, operatives on site, in the final hours when that well was, wellhead was capped, and then you could see jubilation all over the place. But it's to look at the positive side of it. A disaster, a problem has been solved, a solution has been provided. The indigenous company, has come
done the business, it managed this crisis effectively. Eventually, the crisis has come to an end. But it's what experts are saying. Experts are saying, in this kind of situation, let's have stakeholder cooperation all round. Let regulatory agencies be proactive in terms of working, especially when you have a lot of some of these businesses that international oil companies are giving up, and indigenous firms have taken over.
Right.
There should be a new approach to how this is done in terms of engagement, in terms of relating with these new players in the business, especially because they are indigenous and they probably need the protection that they can have.
Actually, real quickly, oil industry experts advocate that the road ahead in sustaining the Nigerians' indigenous successful operation will demand cooperation of all stakeholders towards delivering a comprehensive, impactful, and timeous closure of the incident. They're also advising that this incident offers an opportunity for the industry's regulatory and emergency agencies in the country to take up proactive steps. What do you think of that?
Yeah, this is an interesting angle. I was trying to talk about it very quickly earlier on. So there's need for cooperation. When you have this kind of crisis, you have a whole lot of stakeholders involved. Not just the communities. Because not just the environment that will be affected. So if the environment is affected, everybody. It goes a whole long stretch. Affecting individuals and the communities as well as Nigeria as a whole. So it's about how you look at it. Sometimes a crisis come up and it is an opportunity for Nigeria or for the entire country to show its ability to handle that crisis. So for instance, you have this happening. It was supposed to. It's said to be a massive. It was massive. In terms of what was coming out. From especially the gas that was coming out. So it was not. Of course, it's a business, but it also creates an opportunity for regulators. And then for the entire country as a whole. To show that if you had this the entire industry in the hands of Nigerians, that we could handle this kind of problem ourselves. So you have all sorts of agencies, who should rally round, and begin to look at new ways. So it's you have a problem, you have a crisis, which gives you an opportunity to begin to analyze, how do you deal with it? Now that it is over, it is about time. It's time for them to come together, and begin to have a full discussion. Because sometimes it's about not expecting this kind of things to happen. But now that it has happened, is it a learning? What are the learning curves that we have to go through? What are the lessons learned? From what has gone, and how can we begin to look forward to the future in terms of what other, because it opens up a channel for you to say what more can we see, what new can we see, what are the other things that could happen. This one has happened, we learn from it, but now it's time to begin to put heads together, work with especially the entire industry, but also particularly with indigenous players who are handling, who took over some of these assets from the international oil companies, and begin to implement some put down first of all policies, and then begin to implement those policies to see that first there's a prevention, and then the possibility of handling what might happen in future. It could be some other things that could come up, in another mining lease, or that will require a different approach to it. So but this has opened up the channel, open up the channel for looking at different things that could happen. So especially by speaking with international players who will have this, and then they will deal with it very quickly, and nobody will hear about it, but now that these assets are coming into the hands of indigenous players, there's need for the regulators and the entire country to see how they can work with them, to ensure that it doesn't happen. And then even when it happens, there is a quick intervention to deal with this crisis.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Philip, for shedding light and also making sense of the headlines this morning. Well, we hope to see some changes during the course of the week. Let's just see how it develops, Thank you so much for listening, everybody. That was Mr. Philip Isakwa, the publisher, Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. Here on Africa Business Radio is what we do every Monday. So that's all for now. Stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for joining in.